And joining us now on This Is the Day is author Dawn Eden Goldstein, whose recent book, Father Ed, the story of Bill W.'s spiritual sponsor. She has written this book right here. I'm holding it in my hand, and we're so happy to have her on our show today. Thank you so much for being with us, Dawn.
Thank you so much for having me on, Kevin.
Maybe if you could start out by telling us about how you first came to know about Father Ed and how that sort of progressed into putting it into a book.
Sure. Well, because Father Ed was an important priest in AA, sometimes AA members are surprised to find that I am what Father Ed would call underprivileged. Which means that I'm not an AA member.
Okay.
Father Ed was underprivileged too. He really envied AAs uh, for their shared fellowship. But I heard about Father Ed from an AA member, and that was back in 2008. I bought a book that was a collection of Father Ed's correspondence with Bill Wilson, the co-founder of AA. And in reading it, I thought there really should be a biography of him. And I waited 10 years for someone to write one. And then when no one did, I had to do it myself, and I'm just so grateful to have done it.
Yeah, and
It was
it's a
amazing.
fascinating story. Maybe if you could too talk about what attracted Father Ed to AA and what brought him into that world.
Well, one great quality of Father A is that Father A, excuse me, Father Ed. You can tell how excited I am about him. One great quality of Father Ed was that, unusually for his time, because he first heard of AA in early 1940. He was born in 1898. Unusually for his time, he allowed himself to be led by lay people. So it was an alcoholic who introduced him to AA. And when he discovered it, he was so impressed by the big book, and particularly by the 12 steps, because he felt that the 12 steps incorporated principles of the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius that had been personally important to him as a young Jesuit, St. Ignatius Loyola being the founder of the Jesuits. So he assumed that the author of the 12 steps, Bill Wilson, must be this great Ignatian master. He tracked down Bill and wanted to talk to him about St. Ignatius, and Bill said, never heard of him. and that began a wonderful friendship that lasted 20 years, from 1940 until Father Ed's death in 1960.
Yeah, and maybe if you could talk about that friendship and how it grew, as you mentioned too. I think it was, not that it didn't start off good, but there was, it was something that definitely grew and grew stronger and really developed.
Yes, that's very true. I the only really challenging part of their friendship was just when they first met, and there was that moment of confusion with Bill never having heard of Saint Ignatius. But Father Ed's response was to laugh, and that broke the ice between them. And before Bill knew it, he was doing what AAs call taking the fifth. He was making his fifth step to Father Ed. Uh, the fifth step is admitted our wrongs to God and to another person. And so Father Ed became what Bill called his spiritual sponsor. In AA, a sponsor is normally someone who's in AA, who has worked the 12 steps, gotten sober, and is in a position to help others work the steps. In Father Ed's case, he wasn't an AA member, but he had experienced his own hitting bottom. Father Ed, as a novice Jesuit, had feelings of inadequacy and failure. It was through the principles of the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius that Father Ed came to believe that he was where God wanted him to be, and grew stronger in virtue. And so Father Ed took that empathy that he felt with AAs and drew upon that in his spiritual sponsorship of Bill and many others.
Yeah, and this is a book about his relationship with Bill and AA as well, but you mentioned in the book too some of the other things that Father Ed was involved in too. Also got involved with helping married couples as well with these Cana conferences, and maybe just touch up briefly on that as we're running out of time, but just some of the things like that that he really wanted to help people.
Yes, he was a pioneer in marriage ministry, and also with a group called Recovery Incorporated, now called Recovery International, that helps people with anxiety type disorders. So he was just known, Father Ed was a priest for people with problems. People knew that whatever they were suffering, they could come to him and he would give them spiritual accompaniment. I think of him as a model of what Pope Francis calls a shepherd with the smell of the sheep.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wish we had more time, Don, but thank you so much for being with us. And so people, hopefully we wet their whistle a little bit and they can check this book out. Where would people find a way to get this book?
The website for Orbis Books, ORBIS books.com, offers it. And pretty much, as they say, wherever fine books are sold.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Don. It's great talking to you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
We're going to go back now to the rest of This Is the Day.